All right, everyone, this is your boy Fernie here. This time doing an interview live in person here in Hyattsville, Texas at the old haunted Lavaca jail. Right now it is 6:19 in the PM, and with me here is one of our newest members in our group, Spectre, named Pete. Hey, Pete, how's it going, sir?
Everything's going good. How's it going, Fernando?
Good, good. So yeah, we've got a special treat because not only are we doing this interview here, basically in the front garage area of the old Hyattsville jail, but Pete has some great stories that he's going to share, stuff that's going to be really interesting to hear. He was just mentioning one involving a brothel, a place involving a brothel from way back when, and so it's going to be good information in terms of ghost hunts and ghostly experiences. So yeah, please, Pete, you wanted to introduce yourself, and then, yeah, just let us know about that story, please.
Yeah, I'm Pete. I'm from Victoria, Texas. This incident here happened a little over 20 years ago out in a small town called Carn City in Texas. And it was a big two-story house that back in the day was a brothel, and the madam and her husband both lived there, and he was more or less what they consider the muscle for the brothel. He took care of the girls, and he maintained the place. And I'd lived there about a year and a half, and I had an older lady that was renting a room, and she was considered legally blind, but every now and then I'd come home and she'd keep telling me that she'd seen a ghost or an apparition. And I was a little skeptical back then. It was a while back. And she kept telling me that she kept seeing a Civil War soldier. And it happened four times. And it seemed like every time she was there by herself, it would happen. It would never happen when I was there with her.
Oh, wow.
And, it first couple times it scared her a little bit, but she was seemed to be getting used to it. And about 6 months after she'd left, I was tearing down a wall upstairs and combining two of the big bedrooms. And that room, when I was done with it, had like 19 windows in it, facing three sides of the house. And I had just set my computer up there, and it was facing the front of the house in the second floor there. And it was late at night. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and I was doing something on the computer, trying to buy something, or was just browsing. And I was the only one in the house. Hadn't heard nothing. It was all nice and quiet. There wasn't a light on in the house, just the glow from the computer. And out of the clear blue, I heard a little, just a strange noise, and I just leaned back, looked over my left shoulder, and there was a guy standing there.
Wow.
And he was wearing blue jean overalls with one. You could even tell that one side was unclipped, and he had on a white T-shirt, and he was probably in his 50s. And I looked back, I saw him, and I turned back to the computer like it was no big deal. And within just a matter of seconds, I realized that I'd seen somebody, and within just a flash of a second, I turned back, and he was gone. And I was like, all right, there's nobody in the house. I know I just saw what I just saw. And I sat there startled for a little bit. And I did a little bit of a walk around, and I already knew nobody was there, but I looked around anyway. And I sat back down, and I started thinking about what just happened. And it just reminded me of what the woman had told me. She said she saw a Civil War soldier and she's, practically blind. So a man in blue jean overalls and a white T-shirt would look the same, more or less.
Yeah.
And that was my turning point.
That was one of the first times you encountered something. Is that right?
That was the first time I can honestly say I saw an apparition.
Wow.
It was definitely shocking.
Did the lady say afterward, "That's him"? That's him? Like when you described him? Or
No, she'd moved out about 6 months before this.
Oh. Okay.
That's why I was renovating and making the rooms bigger and doing all kinds of work in the back and everything. And I never did see him again, but I sure did hear a lot of different noises and strange things being moved. My mother had come to visit for a couple of months, and I spent money on this beautiful crucifix, a beautiful one, a one of a kind that was made. And she set it on the end table next to the couch. And we left the room, and we were just in the kitchen cooking and doing some other things. And we came back, and it was gone.
Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere. And it was like, she was crying about it, and I didn't know what she was crying about. And she said, "I lost it." And I'm like, "You lost what?" "I lost the crucifix you got me." I said, "Well, where do you think you had it last?" She says, "I know, I put it right here." That's where she sat. That's where she drank her coffee, smoked her cigarettes. That was her spot. She says, "I had just put it here before we went into the kitchen." And no one had been there since that. And that was just one of many things that either moved or disappeared.
Do you know if that was anybody having to do with the brothel?
Yeah, that was the
Civil War soldier?
No, it was the madam's husband, the two that owned the home.
Yeah.
And before I got it, they'd remodeled the entire upstairs, because it used to just be like a half slant roof with a room.
Yeah.
They took that roof off and made it a complete second floor. And I was probably the first one to do any construction there since then. So
Yeah, ghosts don't like that.
yeah, they don't, that's for sure. But it was amazing, because he was looking over my shoulder, about not 7 feet back from me, and he was watching the computer. He was watching what I was doing on the computer, and I was relaxed in a chair right there in front of the computer. And I mean, all I did was hear something, look over my left shoulder. There he was, and I could see he was looking at the computer. So I looked back at the computer, and by the time I turned back and realized I'd seen something, he was gone. That quick.
Did he look solid like a person
Yes.
would? So nothing translucent looking through him?
The room was pitch black, other than the blue glow from the screen. And you, just like you would see a normal person, and you would see that lit up glow on the front of them.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. But yeah, he did look solid.
Wow. I'm trying to see then, was there any history of that brothel having anything bad? Like
Yes, a couple of people did die there. He had a heart attack, from what I understand, but I don't know how true that is. I have nothing to back that up.
Okay.
But they said he died of a heart attack in the home.
The guy that was doing the apparition?
Yeah.
And then after you left, did you hear anything else from that house? Did anybody else mention anything afterward?
No, the house was vacant for a couple of years after I left, and then I'd moved out of town. I hadn't heard anything.
Okay. And now, next experience, I usually like to ask this question. What would you say is the scariest encounter you've ever had? Like when it comes to anything involving ghosts or spirits?
I was at a house in the Carolinas, in a town called Shoefly,
Shoefly?
North Carolina.
Interesting name. Yeah.
And there's only one house in the entire town.
Oh, really?
The sign coming into town, the sign going out of town were back to back on the same signpost for the town. There's only one house, and it had one shed out back, and that was it.
And that was the house right there.
Uh-huh. And we went out there one night, 4 of us, just to check things out. And we were all hanging out there and sitting out at the picnic table and stuff. And we heard bangs from inside the house. And we weren't going to go in because it was an empty house, but it was still someone's property, and it wasn't old, or it wasn't old, torn down or nothing. It was still someone could live there kind of thing. So we weren't going to go inside, and we just figured somebody might be living inside of it. So it didn't bother us much. But then the shed that was behind us, because we were at the picnic table in the backyard, the shed that was behind us, all of a sudden we heard 2 loud bangs come from that, and the door half opened. And there was 2 girls and 2 guys, and the 2 girls booked. And us 2 guys kind of stood up, looked, and we're like, are we going to investigate this, or are we just going to go? And the ladies were already screaming, let's go, let's go. So we hightailed it.
Yeah, it was probably safer, especially if you get that feeling of don't do it, like that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, because it sent electricity straight through my body. And I was like, no, this ain't right. And my buddy, he was like 350 pounds, 6'6". He was a monster. And I was like, are we gonna go investigate, see what's going on? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, all right, let's go.
No worries. We've done that as well, myself and then others in our group.
Still gives me chills.
We know when it's time to go, and that definitely sounded like one of those times. Next question I have then is, what would you say is the best evidence you've ever captured or seen?
I don't know, here. Let's see.
Oh yeah, you want to tell the Hydesville one, sure.
Yeah, we had some good. Right here at the Lavaca County Jail, we had some good evidence. I've still got it on my phone of the app with the stick people.
Yeah.
We were using that, and we were told that an inmate had died, hung himself in the shower, and we were using the phone to look for stick figure ghosts. I don't know the proper term for it, but and we were shining it in there, and we even recorded it. We got pictures, we got recordings of stick figure apparition hanging in the shower, then slumped down in the corner, then it's hanging, then it's slumped, then it's hanging, then it's slumped. And that particular area right there was a pretty good hot spot. And when we walked outside of there and shined the phone down the hallway, there was another stick figure down there that was just hanging out right next to the bars, and was answering to the name William.
Okay.
He was pretty loud when we were doing the voice. It wasn't EVP, but it was the voice simulation thing where we were just having a discussion.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of activity with him.
So hopefully tonight we're gonna visit those same places again.
Yep.
What time is it now? 6:33. Yeah, in a couple of hours, guys, we're gonna be inside doing the same investigation, and hopefully we'll run into the same stuff as well. Only other question I have then, Pete, anything involving aliens, UFOs? You ever have any experiences, encounters, far off sightings, anything like that?
I had something out there on Lake Corpus Christi I couldn't explain. One evening, the woman that had the home behind me had 2 of her grandkids that used to live with her, 2 boys. And they used to come over and hang out when I'd have a bonfire or something like that. And one night we were out there, my place was right on the lake, and we're overlooking the lake out toward the old Air Force base that's out that way. It's long closed down. It's on the opposite side of the lake from like where the KOA is. And we're looking out there, and we counted 11 green teardrop shaped, I don't even know what you would call them, just teardrop shaped green lit up balloon shaped thing. I don't even know what to call it. And they were all floating up in the air, and they were all like within probably a mile circumference of each other, but they were very spaced out, and they were just sitting there. And we watched them for hours, and they didn't really move. They didn't move. They didn't flash. They didn't do nothing. They glowed green, light green, and just stayed there all night. And we got, our fire went out, and everybody went home, went to bed, and of course the next morning they weren't there.
Were they all in a straight line?
No,
Okay.
no. They were random. We counted 11. There may have been more, but they were in random spots. And like, might have been a couple miles, but they were that big that you could see them, and they were tall. They were really tall, and they were. If you could see a Cessna plane, that's about the height that those things were at.
Okay.
And they were just, it was dark out, and they were like, nobody could call them weather balloons, that's for sure.
Were they moving about, like doing circles or anything like that?
They weren't doing anything.
Just
They were
floating?
just floating up there. And we didn't have cell phones back then. That was back in '95.
And it's coming from an Air Force base
Yeah.
that's closed, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because we even drove over to Sandia and drove into the Air Force, the entrance, to see if we could see if anything was going on over there.
Yeah.
Any activity from vehicles and stuff. No, grass was grown up. Nobody driven through there except us.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a pretty interesting story when it comes to the world of UFOs. Might have been something out there. But all right. Well, thank you, Pete. Much appreciated. That was Pete again, our newest member in the world of Spectre. Again, with this interview, if you had a chance, if you heard anything in the background that we may not have heard, it happens on these interviews. That's why I do these right at the haunted locations, because sometimes other guests will make an appearance. They'll say hello in the background. Ghostly apparitions, noises, let us know. Post it in the comments. Thank you, Pete, again. Appreciate it, man.
You're welcome. Have a good one.